guys, how's it going? It's Al. Welcome to week 3 first look. We're going to take a look on DraftKings at building a tournament lineup built around a double stack and a bring back and trying to correlate a secondary stack along with it, because if everything goes off, it's two things that we have to get right that just drags everybody else along. We are only shooting for the highest possible outcomes. When you're building tournament lineups and you are double stacking, you are trying to isolate to quarterbacks that you think have an opportunity of scoring 30 plus DraftKings points. It is something that happens on average multiple times a week for the last 3+ years. And when it does happen, we want to be dragged along by that superstar quarterback performance, not unlike Lamar Jackson or Tua in week 2, or many other players before them. Every time Patrick Mahomes has a 30+ point week, every time that Josh Allen has a 30+ point week, there are at least 2 players that he drags along with him that help drag you to the top of the GPP sheet. So let's go.
He's a legend.
The Smiz Gang Listener League for week 3 is posted. There is a link right down below, smizzle.tv/links. It exists in the description and in the pinned comment, or you can literally just type it into the URL on your browser. Smizzle.tv/links will take you to our link tree where you can find literally everything that I do. The Twitch stream, my Instagram, the Listener League is right here. The No Kid Hungry fundraiser. If you had a winning week in week 2, if you did well, or you just enjoyed the information that we have here on the channel, please consider going to the No Kid Hungry fundraiser and donating. I would greatly appreciate it. Best Buys comes out every Thursday, so all of my stuff is there in smizzle.tv/links. Make sure that you join the Listener League. It is a $10 entry fee. 3 max, 4,000 people. We shout out the winners on the recap video that comes out every Monday on the Fantasy Football channel. It's up right now. You can go watch it. I'll put a link to that down below as well, to the Fantasy Football channel, so you can see everything that I did in week 2. We shout out all the winners from the Listener League, the top 10 every single week. Let's take a look at what we have here on the slate. Josh Allen makes his debut on 2022 main slates. He's been on couple of island games already and finally makes his way to the unicorn has returned to the main slate. 33 fantasy points in week 1. Week 2 for him has not happened yet because they play on this double Monday Night Football slate. I have the video for that already up on the channel. If it's before Monday Night Football kickoff, go check that out for the 2-game slate here on Monday night. So hopefully he makes it through that one unscathed. I think that he is a very viable stacking option literally all the time, because we are looking for those 30+ point weeks. Lamar Jackson, 8,000 now after he double bonus last week. 318 passing yards, 119 rushing yards, 48.62 DraftKings points, 21 completions. Dragged 2 pass catchers along with him. If you played his 2 most viable pass catchers, the 2 leaders in target market share, Mark Andrews and Rashad Bateman, you had yourself a big day. And if you brought it back with somebody from Miami, you probably had a big day too, as both of their players had like 30+ points. So it's a lot of points coming from a double stack and a bring back. Going to be more expensive. The way that you kind of need to look at things with regards to DraftKings pricing and tournament ownership. If a player does well and they're trending upward, their price is going to go up and the percentage of people on them is going to go up. One player that we can look at for that, Lamar Jackson's a good example, right? Coming off of a 20-point day and a 48-point day, 7,300, 7,400, 8,000. More people are going to be on that Lamar Jackson play and stacks and double stacks this week because it hit last week. People love to play whack-a-mole. People love to chase the roulette ball around the wheel. It's just the way that things happen in daily fantasy. Patrick Mahomes going up against Indy, and Indy just right now not looking real good. Patrick Mahomes can go off any single week. Always going to have one of the highest team totals, 7 touchdowns, 0 interceptions so far through the first 2 weeks. And again, very stackable with one player in particular, and that would be Travis Kelce. Looking at tight end, I mentioned this on the recap video, and I want to reiterate it here. Tight ends with a ceiling give you a different opportunity because there aren't very many tight ends that have 25 to 35 point upside on any given slate. Travis Kelce being one of them, Mark Andrews being another one of them with 28.7 points in week 2. Darren Waller has that kind of upside, but it's a little bit muted now with Devontae Adams being there, being the primary target getter. Kyle Pitts actually has that sort of ceiling if they would actually throw him the ball. Great participation in terms of routes per dropbacks. They're running him out there, but he's just doing cardio because they refuse to target him. We're going to dig deeper into that as the week goes on and find out exactly why. But like the other tight ends, like they have good days. Like Tyler Higbee, 14 points is a good day, but a ceiling for Tyler Higbee or basically any other tight end, a ceiling game for them is something around like 15 to 18 points. So if you get a guy that can get you 30 or 30 plus, it separates you at that position. So they're going to be expensive, obviously, at 7,900 for both of them to get Patrick Mahomes and Travis Kelce stacks into your lineups, but you'll find value elsewhere. And if they have a monster day, you're immediately separated 1 on price, 2 on percentage, 3 on ceiling at the position because of positional scarcity. So it's a way to go. Justin Herbert, they hurt our prince. He has a fractured rib cartilage. He's day to day. I figured he was going to miss a few weeks in this spot. They're like kind of teasing the Chargers that he may be okay to play. I don't think he plays for like a few weeks, right? He could be able to practice some point next week. They're going to reassess. They have Dr. Stabby Lung looking after him. So like I'd be lying if I said I was not concerned. The same guy who's responsible for getting Justin Herbert his starting opportunity when he stabbed Tyrod Taylor in the lung is now taking care of our sweet prince, Justin Herbert. So please, Justin, stay away from any needles from your team doctor. Kirk Cousins playing on Monday night. They're passing the ball more. Detroit scoring a lot of points and keeping the pressure on everybody else, and their defense not like super duper efficient, although they can apply pressure. Kirk Cousins stacks going to be cheaper than some of the premium ones as well. Matthew Stafford stacks just seem too cheap pretty much all the time. Candidate for 3+ touchdowns and 300 yards in any game. Arizona and the Rams, one of the highest total games on the slate. We're going to go with Kyler, as you saw, if you watched the open or clicked on the thumbnail, which you did to get here. So you know we're going with a Kyler lineup. But Matthew Stafford on the other side and for cheaper does make a lot of sense. Tom Brady, make sure that you're looking at who is actually viable right now for Tom Brady catching passes, because Evans is going to be gone. Godwin's going to be out. Gage dealing with a hamstring. Lenny dealing with a hamstring, but like getting a ton of usage right now. There's just nobody there. And what we saw from not just Tom Brady, but also Matt Ryan, whether it's an old quarterback or a young one. You remember when everybody thought that Tom Brady was washed? Right? Tom Brady's dust. Tom Brady's washed. Tom Brady can't play anymore. When he was on New England, it was when Gronk was retired and there were no pass catchers that could get any sort of separation that he was throwing the ball to. Then all of a sudden he goes to Tampa Bay, has a massive resurgence because he's got Mike Evans on one side, Godwin manning the slot and outside. They bring in Antonio Brown. Gronk comes out of retirement. All of a sudden, Tom Brady is resurgent. He's back on top of things. He's amazing. Quarterbacks can be elevators of talent, but wide receivers can be also. So Tom Brady can do well. He tried throwing the ball deep to Scotty Miller. Didn't quite work as well. Tried throwing the ball to Brett Perriman. Doesn't work as well. Russell Gage is fine, but he's a professional wide receiver. Works better as a third or a fourth option, not a primary option. So monitoring Tom Brady's offensive weapons here in a battle of two Hall of Fame quarterbacks is something that we're going to have to look at going forward. If you didn't know, we're doing a fundraiser for No Kid Hungry this season, trying to raise $50,000 as a community. That means you. Every single dollar helps. If you like the content on the channel, if you have won games on Daily Fantasy on FanDuel or DraftKings, somewhat from the content that we've put out the first couple of weeks of this season, and you just want to say thank you, please consider donating even $1. Every dollar helps. $1, $5, $20 will help us get to that goal of $50,000 from the community. No Kid Hungry is a charity that raises, like I said, if you've benefited, please take a couple seconds, go to smizzle.tv/charity. That link can also be found at smizzle.tv/links, and be a part of something that's bigger than yourself. If you can give back, I would greatly appreciate it. And for every $10,000 that the community raises, I will personally be adding $10,000 as a match myself, up to $50,000. So together we can raise $100,000 by the end of 2022. Let's get back to the video. Now, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers do want to run the football a lot more this year, again, because of the guys that are on the outside. He does not have those great separators, those guys that can get loose as often as possible. He's got to throw into tighter windows because he doesn't have a Devontae Adams to get yards away from the guys that's covering him. So he's going to have to slide balls in to much tighter spots now. And so they are depending on Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon to carry a lot of the weight and to run a lot of the football to eat up clock, to keep Aaron Rodgers from having to make more difficult throws. this could be a week because you can't run against Tampa Bay as efficiently as you'd run against other teams that like Aaron Rodgers has to throw. So we're going to see this week if he can certainly do that. Now, you kind of know where the ball's going a little bit with Aaron Rodgers. So, like, if you think that he has a 3-touchdown, 300-yard game coming, this would be a great week to double stack Aaron Rodgers. Where did he go? Tua? I'm really probably not expecting another 6-touchdown, 469 nice yard performance out of Tua in week 3, specifically against Buffalo. But this game could shoot out. Like what if McDaniel's like the best offensive coach in the league? What if he's just really good? Right? What if he's just a really, 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 really good offensive coach, kind of as advertised, right? And he's got weapons that are beyond absurd. Having Tyreek Hill opens up a ton for your offense, and then having another player as talented a route runner and wide receiver and as fast and game-breaking as Jalen Waddle is on the other side in single coverage absolutely all the time. Like, it's not a shock to me. I mean, it's a shock that anybody has 6 touchdown passes, right? Like, I'm not saying that like that's not impressive. It's not a shock to me that he's had 2 really solid, highly efficient games and has 7 touchdowns after 2 weeks. Like, 3 touchdowns a game is not impossible when you have those weapons on the outside. He's only 6,100. It's very easy to just bring back somebody on Buffalo. So like having Tua stacks, one, are fine. The problem is they're gonna be highly populated this week coming off of a week like he just had. Everybody's gonna, well, look, he had this, why don't I just play those guys again? That's the problem, right? It's like the price theoretically should go up, and it has, right? And the price of his wide receivers should also go up, and it has. And the population on those guys is also going to go up. So look for players where the price has gone down, where the performance hasn't been there, but the underlyings do show that there's going to be bounce back type opportunities. Now, Kyler Murray really was not all that efficient, specifically in the first half. But in the second half, he really got loose and ended up with like almost a 27-point fantasy day. He's going to have to do a lot of the same things against the Rams here in week 3. We haven't seen him run a lot, right? 5 attempts a game is not old school Kyler. And it's very possible that they're doing this schematically because early in the season, the last 2 years, they ran him a ton, like 8, 10, 12 times a game. And around half point of the season, Kyler gets hurt because he's small, right? It's not his fault. It's just the reality of the situation that you're playing a game where there are 22 Avenger level enhanced humans on the field who can all run faster, jump higher, are more agile, hit harder, lift more weight, and are faster than any human being ever should be. And then you have Kyler Murray at like 5'5", doing his thing, looking like a bad toddler, running around with a toy that you can't get. Like if your 2-year-old gets like the remote and starts running around the house with it, or your iPhone starts running around the house with it, and you can't catch him, that's Kyler Murray, essentially. So I want that. I want that sort of activity on my team, and I want it at home specifically, and in a really fast-paced, high-scoring environment like this game projects and portends to be. So now we have to find a couple of stacking options for him. We also they say Connor's ankle is fine. He missed the rest of the game. Not dealing with a severe injury. Monitor this as the week goes on. There's going to be a lot of stacks played from this game. If Connor does not go, Williams saw a good amount of usage. We knew that he was going to be the backup coming into the season, was one of our 0 RB candidate guys from round 16 plus. If he doesn't go, if Connor doesn't go, then Williams at 5,100 is going to absolutely be everywhere. But taking a look at the pass catchers in this game, Cooper Kupp's good. I'm playing him. Hashtag analysis. Okay. If I'm stacking this game, I'm playing Cooper Kupp, right? That's all I'm doing. It's very simple. And like he's gonna get just a boatload of targets every game. I'm not expecting 14 targets a game every week because it's not possible, right? Like how do you, whatever, as long as he's getting 10 plus targets, which he pretty much gets every single week, 9K more, I'll let you figure out where you want to get your 30 points from. Let your opponents figure that out. Just play Cooper Kupp like absolutely all the time. I'm not saying it works every week, but like if it works 15 out of 18 weeks, that's good enough. If he averages 27 fantasy points a week and they keep him under 10K, the way he's performing right now, he should probably be priced at 11.5. So we're actually getting a discount on Cooper Kupp at 9,900, which sounds absurd, but isn't really. So if you're still here, drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel, ring the notifications bell. I put out 8 videos a week on the main channel. Would not want you to miss any of them. We got a Monday Night Football, Thursday Night Football, and videos coming out the other 6 days of the week as well. 8 videos here, another 6 on the Fantasy Football channel. Go subscribe there if you haven't already. The recap video for week 1 is on that channel if you were looking for the recap video for how I did from week 2. And we had a millionaire maker in the Smiz gang. One of our community members won the millionaire maker in week 2 on FanDuel. We're going to go review that lineup, everything else on the Fantasy Football channel, smizzle.tv/FF. So definitely go check all that out. And I appreciate you guys for spending your time and using your eyeballs to watch all of the content that I put out on this channel. It really does mean a lot. And I'm happy to be able to put it out for free. Allen Robinson is going to be really, really good, right? If you wanted to go with him off of Cooper Kupp, I'm fine with it, right? Like, Arizona does not have a defense that you're going to have to worry about most weeks. They're Carnival-esque. Allen Robinson scored 15 DraftKings points last week and was robbed of a second touchdown on a play that got called back. So if you want to pivot off of Cooper Kupp because maybe you want to spend somewhere else, I get it. That's fine. I just wanted to mention that he is there and somebody that you need to be aware of in this game, because I think too many people are just going to ignore the fact that Allen Robinson hasn't had a monster game yet, but touchdowns are coming because he is getting a lot of usage inside the red zone. Week 1 was somewhat of an anomaly. Most teams don't play as much zone as the Bills do. Marquise Brown did have 11 targets that game as they were chasing from behind. They were chasing from behind in week 1 against Kansas City 2, but just couldn't get it done. I'm waiting for that downfield opportunity for Marquise Brown. He dropped one, as he does tend to do, but he had an opportunity, and that's what I look for more often than anything else. Those opportunities are still going to be there. His skill set is getting loose deep, although this offense doesn't really look for those. You would think on the surface, it being the horizontal array, but Kyler, one of the highest volume downfield throws, they just don't look to that intermediate stuff. Yeah, I know. Like, chat's like, he got hit really hard. He did get hit really hard. Marquise Brown at 6K seems too cheap and very easy to pair here. And then get Dortched. If I'm just, like, it's so ridiculous. Greg Dortch just keeps getting targets, and he's getting targets at his diminutive size. Maybe it's just like little guys stick together. Like, Dortch is basically Kyler's size. He runs a lot of his routes out of the slot, and like 55 yards, 63 yards. His price has come up from 3,000 to 3,500 to 4,300. If he gets you like 5, 6, 7 targets, in case Rondale Moore is out. If Rondale Moore is back in, I'm not interested in Greg Dortch. I'm not sure that he is going to be back for this game, and Dortch has done very well in his stead. Dortch is 4,300, but because this price has come up here, people are going to look more under 4K for their value range, and I think that Dortch's percentage in tournaments could be lower than what it has been or what it was in week 2 after being like absolutely minuscule in week 1. So here's my primary double stack. There's my bring back. It's going to be Cooper Kupp. Let's go to the running backs real quick and look at the entire sheet. Based on the fact that I've already paid up for Cooper Kupp, I can't really afford somebody like Jonathan Taylor. Going up against Kansas City, he can go off against anybody, right? Like, he almost broke a couple of long ones in week 2. He just couldn't really get off the schneid. You need Michael Pittman to be there to be a threat for Jonathan Taylor to run against a little bit lighter boxes. He's going to run against heavier boxes constantly this season. When everybody on the wide receiver group has who on the back of their uniform, it's going to be hard for a quarterback like Matt Ryan, as I said during the quarterback portion, to really operate in the way that they need to. This team needs to establish the run, but they need to have threats on the outside. As we talked about on the Anti-Tinkercast on Twitch on Sunday morning, I thought it was going to be hard for the Colts to move the football, and it was hard for them to move football, and that means that Jonathan Taylor's going to have a rough time. Thankfully, that drops his salary like 10% down to 9K. So it's brought him back to the field a little bit. Christian McCaffrey has not had a great day through 2 weeks, but like 15 points, 19.8 points, fine. If you wanted to pay up there, again, you'd have to come off Cooper Kupp to do something like that. Derrick Henry playing against Las Vegas and playing on Monday night, so we need to see how that game goes, and hopefully he has a good game and stays healthy through that one. Austin Ekeler, every one of the Chargers offensive players to me is dependent on the presence of Justin Herbert. Like, I'm not buying into Chase Daniel as being anything close to being able to operate this Sirianni offense and do things the way that the Chargers normally do them. Herbert is not human. He has an arm that is almost impossible. He throws laser beams into very tight windows that are 40 yards down the field, and has the ganas to be able to try and pull that off, where most quarterbacks wouldn't even try. So Austin Ekeler is a wait and see for me. Dalvin Cook also playing on Monday night, squaring off against Detroit. I really do like this spot for him. I usually try to steer clear of in-division matchups. I know that Detroit is a team that I've thought could be a lot better this year, and they look like they're playing a lot better this year. But defensively, they're going to give up a lot of points, specifically to efficient offenses like this Vikings offense can be. That game does have shootout potential, just because of the particulars that are in place there. But based on what we have, I want to pay down. Leonard Fournette getting a ridiculous amount of usage. 24 carries in week 2, 21 in week 1, 4 targets, 2 targets. And he tweeted out that he cares about us. He wants to score touchdowns for us as fantasy football players. So how can you not root for him? Everyone was saying he was fat, and he posted like a fat joke about himself during preseason. How do you not root for Leonard Fournette? 6,500 still feels too cheap, even though Green Bay's defense is a solid defense. We saw David Montgomery kind of tear them up on a per play basis and look really tough when he was out there. So I don't mind Lenny, and I also don't mind going with David Montgomery. Now, I may have to reassess this Houston defense, as they've looked really good through the first 2 weeks of the season. But right now, I'm going to stick with David Montgomery because I think that the volume is fine and the price is too cheap. And I think that this Chicago Bears offense has a softer landing spot here than it did the first 2 weeks against Green Bay, in Green Bay, and against San Francisco in week 1, in animals going 2x2 filing into Soldier Field. So this is a really good spot. Playing at home against Houston's defense, checks off all 5 boxes. I like David Montgomery at 5,500, and then I usually do not put these players who are on Monday night in the lineup because of the possibility of injury, but because Miles Sanders is only 5,500, is getting the amount of snaps and run and inside the 5 carries that we want, and got off the touchdown schneid in week 1 at the very least. I think that good things are coming for Miles Sanders in 2022. I think this offense is greatly improved from where it was last year. Obviously, this could go completely up in smoke because the Monday night game has not happened yet. But Miles Sanders at 5,500, 1, seems too cheap, and 2, Washington's defense is horrible. They're just really bad. So you could go with Jalen Hurts doubles. You could go with secondary stacks involving one of the players on Washington and just like AJ Brown or whatever. But Miles Sanders at 5,500 seems entirely too cheap to me, and kind of makes this lineup work where I've got 2 running backs that are under 6K that's going to allow me to pay up. Now I need a cheap defense. Let's just plug in a cheap defense, find the Jaguars at 2,300. We'll pay more attention to defense as the week goes along, right? We'll just do that. Now, how else do I want to attack here? I need a wide receiver and I need a tight end. Now, at tight end, I want routes run, right? We're looking for guys who are not blocking. I can't afford any of the expensive ones. So I'm looking for tight ends that have the ability to run routes, not the least of which would be Hayden Hurst going up against the Jets, running a ton of routes and getting targeted. 15 targets through 2 weeks, 5 catches a game is really, really solid for a tight end. I understand how tough the Chargers defense is, but Evan Ingram, 7 catches in week 2 against Indy, 4 catches against Washington, and running routes on over 80% of his quarterback's dropbacks. Availability is a great ability to have, especially when you're dealing with tight ends that are specifically under 4K. You don't want tight ends that are blocking half the time or 60% of the time or 40% of the time. If you tell me that I'm going to have a tight end that if his quarterback drops back 40 times, he's going to be out in a route over 30 of those times, you have the ability for him to be open. Now, I know it's a tough matchup because Derwin James is an absolute madman. It's not as though it's impossible for you to get the ball to a tight end in space against zone or wherever on the field, specifically when you have other players that are the primary concern in an offense, right? So like we saw Kelsey get loose against them. We've seen Kirk get loose a couple of weeks. Zay Jones has his opportunities to get open, and Travis Etienne finally looked pretty good, although he is a running back too and not a primary running back in week 1. Evan Ingram at 3,700 is fine to me. I'm not going to run him back here. We have 5,100 to spend. I'm going to go to that Washington game because we have Philadelphia. We're down here in this range now. DJ Chark ran a ton of routes last week, did really well. Curtis Samuel has looked really good. Myers has been fine. Elijah Moore has seen 12 targets through 2 weeks, but Wilson right now is getting absolutely all of the shine. Robbie Anderson got loose in week 1, didn't really get loose in week 2, but I want to correlate and I need my secondary stack. So I'm going to go with a running back wide receiver stack in this spot. And Curtis Samuel has been peppered with 20 targets through 2 weeks. Very heavy usage. Once they get inside the 20-yard line, you could take both of these touchdowns away, and he still would have had 14.2 points in week 1. He would have had 16.9 points in week 2. You want those players that can come through for you without scoring touchdowns, where it's not totally touchdown dependent. And the way that the Commanders are running this offense and the way that Wentz is utilizing him in the short to intermediate range, with the downfield ability also that Curtis Samuel has, both before the ball gets there on air yards or possibly breaking tackles and getting loose in the secondary, I really like Curtis Samuel once again this week at 5,100. The price hasn't come up enough. He needs to be like 5,500 to 5,800. I still project him as a value, at least early in the week. So Kyler Murray, Montgomery, Sanders, Brown, Dortch, Samuel, Evan Ingram, Cooper Kupp, and the Jaguars defense. Thank you guys very much for watching. Look out for another one right there.
He's a legend.